Hello and welcome to the Wheel of Crime podcast. This podcast is ran by two ladies who play games, shout profanities, and laugh way too often. Also, this podcast does cover topics of sensitive nature, and as such, listener discretion is advised.
Hello, and welcome back to another gray February day on the Wheel of Crime podcast. My name is Jen.
My name is Emily. I like how poetic you got there for a second. You're like, it's the gloomy gray February day.
Yes.
It is also the truth.
I'm stuck in an endless February at the moment.
Yep, I'm feeling the February funk, the February fugue, where we somehow lived through January, which felt like it was 5 years long, but it was actually 5 weeks long, so close. And now we are in the month that's supposed to be shorter by 2 days, and it still feels like it's also like 100 years, so that's cool.
January and February are the longest, worst months of the entire year, and no one can change my mind. They are, like, literally the worst.
The only good thing is your birthday. But the sad part is that is literally the 1st of January. Then it's endless suffering for like 10 weeks.
I know. Like, it's cold. It's miserable.
The sun's gone.
I'm sad and I miss you.
Yeah, and I'm broke. Like, things are just not good. This is trouble in paradise, my friends.
I keep spending all my money on new tires.
I know, I'm like, where'd my money go? And then I'm like, oh, right, of course my money would be gone because I have all these things that I needed. Yeah, you'd get new tires because, lo and behold, everybody, Jen's tire blew up again. We're on a roll here. An ironic and unironic roll.
Fuck my life.
That was good. I liked the tone on that.
You're welcome. Anyway.
Yeah, so Jen and I are a little delirious today, just trying to survive, I guess. But what's something fun from this last week that you would like to share on the show? Since I refuse to talk about the weather and how that be the only thing we talk about, because for people listening to episodes back to back, that's pretty much torture.
My husband and I went on a little date night for Valentine's Day. We went for a massage and then for dinner and a movie.
Cute.
Is your husband still away, or did you guys do anything for Valentine's Day?
No, we did not do anything for Valentine's Day because, yes, he is still away, and he's actually going to be gone until I'm not sure when this episode comes out, but he's gone until the 20th, but he left January 31st. So
that's quite a ways away.
Yeah, he's doing the long haul. It turns out driving around America takes a very long time.
Emily's in a big bed all alone.
It's
Fellas,
true.
There's a spot open.
Yeah, I did send Jen a picture, guys, and you did not react very much on text, so I want to hear what did you think when you woke up the next day? Because I sent pictures of Solace to Jen at I think it was 3 or 4 in the morning, and I was like, I know she's not seeing this until tomorrow. So what was your thoughts when you opened it up, and you were you like, oh my god, he's so handsome, I could totally see this for Emily, or
oh, the elf? I thought we were talking about the cats.
No, I thought you said Soulless, there's an opening.
Oh, I said fellas.
Close enough, I guess. That's clearly he's on the brain. But yeah, and then
who's on Emily's mind?
Yeah,
she intends to fill that spot.
Obviously, that one's a given. But no, my 2 cats though have been fighting every day actually about who gets his spot at the bed because they've just assumed that it's a free vacancy.
I mean, I love that for them. Your elf, I can see where you're coming from with maybe if he had a really good personality.
Yeah.
Like, he's not hideous. I personally, I wouldn't go as far to say he's hot.
Yeah.
But
the funniest thing
I respect your
my
Your
fascination
yum.
or whatever. Yeah, my yum for sure. Uh the funny part for me is that the first picture I sent you, so for our listeners, the first picture I sent Jen, if you're somebody who with a video gaming background, is a screen grab of him in Dragon Age Inquisition, which is the first game he was introduced in, and it is not a good picture. That I kept showing people that picture being like, I love him! And they were like, really?
Is that your hear me out person?
Yes, that has been my hear me out for the last little while because I've had to explain myself now a few times and be like, no, you don't understand. He's so conflicted. It's very angsty when you get to know his character. The character's got a great personality,
Well, then that's a major slay.
right? There was something else too. Yeah, so the cats have been fighting. I'm still thinking about Soulless. My husband's away. So no Valentine's Day plans, and then the only thing I've really been up to has just been video games because that's what I do when I'm not working. I've been playing one called Fields of Mistra right now, which is like Stardew, but it's like a fantasy Stardew.
That's fun. Emily and I are going to a tarot reading party soon. I'm really looking
Yes.
forward to that.
Yeah, I think it'll be really neat. I've gone to one in the past, but it was different and it was with a different lady. So this will be my first time seeing this person and actually doing it being like a party kind of. So that'll be neat.
Maybe after we get our results at this party in a couple of weeks, we can share on the podcast what's in the cards for us.
Oh, definitely, because I need some answers. And, there's only one place where I'm going to get them, and it's at Tarot Night.
Literally, I'm so excited. I've always wanted to do something like this.
I know! I'm excited, too. I didn't think... there was a time where I was like, oh, I don't see myself and Jen ever doing this together, because it is a little bit woo-woo freaky sometimes for some people. But I am glad that now here in the year of 2025, we can explore the spiritual realm together.
Dude, we've always talked about going to the psychic fair together.
That's true. One year we will. Maybe this year.
Maybe. Oh,
Maybe.
that could be fun.
That could be fun. Okay, but we should start the episode since we've sufficiently chattered about our lives.
Okay, well, let's spin the wheel of questions. What do you think about natural or herbal medicine?
Natural or herbal medicine? I feel like I can see why some things would work, especially if they're like because chemicals are in plants too, right? So it does make sense for me, for example, for like lots of stuff to work, especially because like, clearly it would have had to when people didn't have access to like ibuprofen or something, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's why they were like poking holes in their brains and stuff.
Yeah. And then, but the other part of me also understands that there's quite a few things that are more likely than not placebo type items. So I think that's a yes and a no question for me.
I feel like my only real exposure to it personally, like, is low. And, like, to give, like, an example of my level of, like, exposure to it, like, I feel like the most herbal natural remedy thing that I've ever done is, like, use those, like, sage, like, roll-on things for, like, a headache or something.
Yeah. And, like, that's what I mean, though. Like, stuff like that, it does make sense, though, because then if you look at, like, oh, what are the effects of peppermint? And it's like, oh, peppermint, if you drink, it helps to reduce bloating. It can help, the smell of peppermint can help with headaches. It can be used to reduce inflammation in your respiratory system or whatever. And I'm like, okay, I see, we're cooking here.
The peppermint does something. Maybe.
Yes. Ha ha.
Got you there, science.
Right? Yeah. I have that same kit because I love it so much. And I still use it, like, all the time.
I always mean to use it, but I forget. So,
Mine's in a very obvious place where I see it all the time, and I'm like, ooh, I have a headache and probably shouldn't be taking a bunch of medicine before I go do this thing. Oh my god, here is my natural medicine kit.
you know what? I love that for you, and I aspire to be more like that in the future.
Hell yeah. All right, should we spin for our next question?
Yes. Do you feel like there's been one particular event or something that's happened to you in your life that has made you noticeably more jaded towards the world?
Oh yeah. I mean, many things probably.
But like something that really stands out to you as like, oh, this one person did this to me, and after that, like I felt like more jaded about something.
Oh, the only one I can think of off the top of my head, which upon reflection, I do understand how and why this happened. Um, I so you know when you go to a bar, how like women in the bathrooms are usually like super like social, like the
Hmm.
typical like drunk girl in the bathroom kind of scenario where everybody's like gassing each other up and whatever.
Yeah.
I was in there once and this is gonna sound so stupid when I'm done. So I was in there and it was on a night where I was drinking, but not like it was for a birthday. So I didn't want to be like obliterated and I
Hmm.
actively try not to be obliterated, but it was one of those things where I was definitely more sober leaning. But I was in the bathroom waiting for one of my friends to finish and there was a lady behind me in line who had came there like she was very vocal. She's like, "Oh, I've come here alone. I don't know what to do with my purse because Jen might remember this, but the bars in our hometown that no longer exist very seldom had hooks on the backs of the doors or anything like that because people would rip them off.
Yeah.
And since my friend was in the stall next to her, I was like, well, if you want, like, I'll literally stand here so you can see my shoes under the door and hold your purse for you if you want. I'm just waiting on my friend. And she, like, looked me up and down and she's like, yeah, I know better than to trust somebody like you. And I was like,
Damn.
and it seriously did. It jaded me against people in bathrooms who were like at bar bathrooms who were drunk. I'm like, oh, these fucking idiots, like blah blah blah. Because this lady was definitely like further down the road than I was. So
Yeah.
I would say that experience jaded me. But upon reflection, I will say the party I went to was a preps versus jocks party, and I was dressed like a jock.
So you
On
were
a
giving I'm only friends with boys?
Yeah. I was giving might be lesbian, might only have boys for friends. I was giving a few things that night.
You were
And
giving
now
pick me girl.
yeah, and like looking back now, I am like, you know what? If it was a regular Friday, Saturday night on like and not a holiday and I saw somebody wearing basketball shorts and a jersey and a backwards hat with football paint on, saying they're gonna hold my purse, I'd be like, I'm shoving this
No
purse up my
thanks.
ass. Absolutely not. You were gonna steal my purse.
You're gonna steal my purse and all my money.
Yeah, like I would not trust me either. So I've moved past that. But for a long time, I was definitely a little bit bitter towards drunk women in bathrooms.
That is completely fair.
Yeah. What about you? What has been one experience you've had that has completely jaded you?
I feel like there's also been a few. I feel like most of mine are work related. You know, where someone just like burned, like you stick your neck out for them and then you just get burned and you're like, well, never doing that again. Like I was trying to be nice and help you and you fucked me over. So that's great.
Yeah, the definitely some work ones. Can confirm I did recently stick my neck out for somebody and did a little extra work than I had to just for them to try to make it into a problem. And I was like, okay, never mind. I guess fuck me. I don't need to be nice.
Nothing will piss me off more than that situation where you're like, okay, then why did I put in all this unpaid labor for you? Like,
yeah, and you're just gonna sit there and try to get me in trouble or do these other things after I literally worked harder for you. I will never understand. I will never understand. But that's neither here nor there.
It's nuts. I fucking hate people sometimes.
Absolutely.
All right, but let's spin for our next question. Do you think you have a reputation around your neighborhood?
Yeah.
And what is it?
Well, I think it's a collective reputation. I think it's my household specifically.
Yeah. You have an interesting household for sure.
I do know that people think that my husband and I are very weird, which is fair. I'm not saying that we're not, because we are. But like, I think we just have the reputation of, oh, those are the business people who do fucking crazy things all the time. Because it's like, so first it was like our catio thing. We were the only people in the neighborhood to have a catio. We had to fight the condo board to have this catio in place. So then we were the cat people, right? And since then, it's just like weird experience after weird experience. Like the one day I ran up to my mailbox with a towel on my head because my hair wasn't dry and it was a cold snap and I didn't want to freeze off my hair, and putting it in a toque doesn't help because there's still cold air getting in there. So I like tightly wrapped a towel around my head to get to my mailbox. Hit every single neighbor on the way back.
Of course.
Every single one of those motherfuckers saw me with a towel on my head outside. And I was like, okay, this is cool.
Of course they did.
And then, yeah, of course they did. And then my husband, he started working out at the gym, the local gym in our neighborhood. There's only one. It's a 24-hour gym. In the middle of the night. So then all of a sudden we had people being like, yeah, I saw your husband out in the parking lot at 3 a.m. And I'm like, yeah, he does that.
That's not suspicious at all.
I know. And I'm like, I know that he's out there. Funny enough, I was awake actually to see him leave, and also awake when he came back. So
you're both crackers.
Yeah, so we are literally the resident nutcases of my neighbor. Cat crazy nutcases. Like literal lunatics. But it's fine.
I love that for you.
It honestly, it is a little iconic. And I think I would rather be known that way versus like the neighborhood nude guy or something else, you know? Because that's how I was at my old... Yeah, at my old apartment, we were definitely the naked neighbors because our blinds were broken and that's just what happens, and people look in your windows. So we were for sure the naked neighbors at our old place. Hasn't happened yet this time. Yet.
Thank God.
There is still time. Maybe that'll be like my next stage of crazy neighbor, is people being like, oh my God, I've seen your tits. And I can be like, me too. Ha ha.
You're welcome.
Happy birthday. I don't know. Anyways, what about you? Do you have a reputation at all between life, work, neighborhood, I guess?
Yeah, I feel like I do have a reputation around my neighborhood. I'm known as the girl with the small barky dog who's a bitch and doesn't want to say hello to anyone.
I mean
Is it not accurate?
Somehow I can see that for you.
Yeah.
I'm not totally sure why.
John's definitely known as like the friendly one who will like stop and say hi to the neighbors, and I'm just like dead ass looking in front, not even saying hello.
That's really funny. That used to be me. I probably got that from you. But then when we moved to where I live now, it's just like you literally see the same people every day, so it does get awkward at some point. So I do wave now and say my hellos, and I know some names and what people do for work and that kind of thing. Wow. So we're getting there.
That's crazy.
Could you imagine?
Oh, God. All right. Let's spin for our last question.
I kept in.
Okay, for our last question, we're going to do a hypothetical situation.
I love hypothetical situations. I put myself through those every day.
Same. So if I called you up
Yep.
on like a random day and I was like, Emily, I'm in an abusive marriage and I need to get out, what would you do?
I would make you come to my house. I'd say less, bitch. We will figure it out. I'd say, grab what you need on your person. You're coming to stay with me. We can throw the rest of your shit in a sea can and figure the rest out later.
But like, what if I didn't have like a car or something?
I'd come pick you up. I don't care.
Wow.
I'd say, family emergency, and then figure the rest out later.
Aw, I love you.
I literally, it would be one of those things where, because I'm normally somebody who thinks a lot about things, I think in that moment I would just be like, well, obviously the priority here is to get you away, and we'll figure the rest out later.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's it.
I feel very similarly about you. I feel like I'd be like, okay, bitch, like, we're getting you out. We're breaking you out of the lake. Like, you're coming to live with me.
We're doing a heist. It's the grand escape. We gotta get you out.
We're taking the cats and we're going.
But that's what I mean. It literally would feel like, I think in that specific hypothetical scenario, it would feel very similar to like when you get the call that like, it's like somebody's in the hospital, right? Like you don't really have a plan yet. You're like, okay, let's go. And that would be my one thought. I would be, okay, you're coming home with me, princess, and little barky dog. We do not know what we're gonna do yet, but we will have a plan eventually.
We will figure this shit out together.
Yep, and that is all I have.
Oh man. Well, I love that we're on the same page about that.
We do have a very loving, dependable relationship with each other, and it's very special to me. I do appreciate that.
Like, we could do like a whole thing where I come pick you up at 3 a.m. and you like sneak out the window or something. I'd be totally up for that.
And like all black, and then just like leave a cryptic note with like newspaper clippings under my pillow.
Don't look for her or you'll die, sir.
Yeah, like something like that. And it could be like, yeah, just like make it super extra for no reason too. I'd be into that.
Or pay me a ransom of $1 million and then she's yours
I
again.
want to be ransomed. I want fun money.
I mean, domestic violence is actually not funny, and I'm not trying to make light of it, but Emily is funny, so...
That's the thing. I think because this is purely because it's a hypothetical situation between two best friends that can't take each other seriously. Domestic violence has never and will never be funny, and should always be taken seriously, in the real sense of the word.
Exactly. All right, but that brings us to the end of our questions. So, what do you think my story is about today? I did give you like a little teaser before we started, so...
I honestly forgot what it was already. Oops. It is somebody... There is a woman. She sells herbal supplements. She's people come to her house, like Avon or Tupperware, and buy supplements from her. And then she's getting beat up by her husband. And then she kills him and has to call her best friend to help hide the body. And they blame it on the supplements somehow. They say the supplements killed him. And then they win a lawsuit against the herbal supplement company. And they live happily ever after.
I mean, you've got pieces of it right, but also pieces of it that are very wrong. So
I do wish sometimes our listeners could see our faces when we're talking about these stories, because when I just said that entire spiel, the look on your face was priceless. It went from like just like normal deadpan face to mild confusion to being like, oh, okay, back into mild confusion.
As I'm trying to like follow the thread, yeah.
Yeah. But that is what I think it is.
Well,
the end.
No. So I'm going to talk about someone who I've had on my list of people to talk about since we started the podcast back in 2019. This was one of the first, like, I have a list on my phone of like crimes to cover for whenever I come across an interesting whatever from wherever. Like a news article, TikTok, podcast, whatever, I put it on the list. This was the first one I ever put on that list.
Weird. Okay.
And so when I was thinking about what I wanted to cover today, I was like, well, fuck it. I'll just do this one. I've had it on here forever. And I've avoided it because it takes place in like Romania and the names are hard. So I will do my best, but I am so sorry.
But we are just a couple of Canadian girls who do have an adult education, but not a worldwide education.
But barely.
Yeah, and that is generous.
Yeah. So today, let's talk about the infamous Baba Anujka. So Baba meaning granny and Anushka meaning roughly ray of light. To give you a sense of this woman.
That's fun. It does make me, hang on, this, to preface, every time you say that, I am going to think of the song Babushka.
Babushka. Close enough.
By Kate something? You know what I'm talking about.
Kate
Hill? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one.
So her legal name is Anna Dipistonja, and so I will be referring to her as Anna for this story. Now, due to the time frame when her life occurred, the sources just can be unreliable. It's just the nature of the time. So please just take everything with a grain of salt. So some sources say that Anna was born in 1838. However, she claimed that she was born in 1836. So I tend to believe the person who's telling me what year they were born, versus other sources.
Fair. Yep.
Not that it makes literally any difference, but whatever. So she was born in Romania, and her father was a rich cattleman. Her family was well off, and her childhood was relatively comfortable. At the age of 11, she moved to Vladimirovac in the Banat military frontier province of the Austrian Empire around 1849. She attended a private school in Penevo with children from rich families, and as a result, her education flourished. Unlike many women of her time, Anna received advanced education, mastering 5 languages and nurturing a fascination with chemistry, which is so fucking impressive because I barely know 1 language.
Yeah. Same.
So she's already got like 7 legs up on me, and she's 11.
Yeah, she's great. She's good. She's set.
Allegedly, she became misanthropist at the age of 20 after being seduced by a young Austrian military officer who she contracted syphilis from before he left her brokenhearted. He gave her syphilis and then dumped her.
Men. Ugh.
Fucking men, am I right?
Ugh.
So after that, she sought seclusion and started to show interest in medicine and chemistry. She later married a landowner named Pistov Dipistonja, with whom she had 11 children.
Well.
And only 1 of those children survived to adulthood.
That is unfortunate.
Yes. So her husband was much older than she was, and he died after 20 years of marriage. She continued to pursue her chemistry studies after his death, and she made a laboratory in one wing of her house once he was gone, and she earned a reputation as a healer and an herbalist in the late 19th century. She was popular with wives of farmers who sought her help for health problems, and she earned a respectable income which enabled her to live comfortably. She produced medicines and mixtures which would help make soldiers ill enough to escape military service. So she was like, you don't want to serve your country? Well, I got your way out.
Mm-hmm.
And to her neighbors, she was a kindly old woman who seemed eager to help with her remedies and potions. Yet behind the grandmotherly facade, she was known in whispers as the Witch of Banat and the Witch of Vladimirovac. So we got a witch on our hands, everyone.
Of course. She's
Ring the witch
smart. she's smart and she can speak many languages and she is sexy, therefore, and she's old, therefore she must be a witch.
And does
Tale
herbal
as old
medicine.
as time. Yeah, and can make medicine. Obviously, she's a witch.
She's got all the telltale signs of a witch.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason that of the whispers was, on top of selling her herbal remedies, she also sold a poisonous mixtures which she branded as magic water or love potions. She sold the so-called magic water mostly to married women with abusive husbands. They would give their concoction to their husbands, who would usually die about 8 days afterwards. Anna's magic water contained arsenic in small quantities and certain plant toxins that were difficult to detect. When told about a marriage problem, Anna would ask her client, "How heavy is the problem?" which meant, "What is the body mass of the victim?" So she was able to calculate the correct dose needed.
How much does he weigh? I need to know how much to dose him. Honestly, slay. I see no problem so far.
I mean, it's a major slay, if you ask me.
Like, are people dying? Yes. Obviously, that's an issue. But, however, her methods are iconic.
They are. So her victims were usually men, typically young and healthy. Her clientele were often women trapped in abusive or loveless marriages, just desperate for a way out in a society that offered them few options. For these women, Anna was more than an herbalist, she was a lifeline. Despite the whispers that surrounded her, she managed to evade suspicion for many, many years. And in the 1920s, she even had her own sales agent, a woman named Yubinia Melankov, whose job was to find potential clients and take them to her house. The price of Anna's magic water fluctuated between 2,000 to 10,000 Yugoslav dinars. So, not cheap, right, but like not out of the question for the time.
Yeah, like for her, this isn't exactly necessarily like her life's work. Like, I don't think she's making her primary income off of magic water. This is more to
a side hustle.
Yeah, and it's also like you're paying for the risk because she's putting her neck out there to provide you with the magical water that is magical things.
It's true. So she evaded suspicion until she sold her magic water to a woman named Stana Mamirov in January 1924 for 2,300 dinars. So Stana was a previous client and Anna had provided her with herbal medicines on other occasions. Stana gave the magic water mixture to her husband Lazar, and he fell ill and died a few days later. Stana later married a richer relative of her deceased husband from the same village, and he died under similar circumstances within a few months. And this raised some suspicions, you know?
Basically, here's the thing. You don't run a business that long without having some, like, preventative measures in place to make sure you don't get caught. I feel like this lady was not being forthright with, Babushka. I forget her name already. Baba
Anujka.
Baba Anujka. I feel like maybe she mentioned that she remarried but didn't say that it was a relative of the first guy or something. Because there's no way you're doing this and then, like, not seeing how suspicious that looks.
For sure. So when the police questioned Stana, she then pointed the finger right back at Anna. So This kind of started the suspicions around her.
Mm-hmm.
Anna then sold her magic water to Shima and his wife Sofija in December 1926, who intended to kill Shima's 70-year-old father Nicola. Their motive involved a family quarrel. According to their claim, Nicola was an alcoholic and abusive towards his children and grandchildren. Sofija heard about Anna from a woman named Danica, and they contacted Anna, who sold them her magic water for 5,000 deniers. Sophia gave it to her 16-year-old niece, Olga, and ordered her to ensure that Nicola drank it. And Nicola drank the poison, fell ill, and died 15 days later. So nearly 18 months after that, Anna was arrested along with the 6 others involved in those 2 killings we just talked about. Anna's first trial was in June 1914 in Balacragva for providing poison for murders, but she was acquitted. She was then arrested again on May 15th, 1928 at the age of 90. The authorities exhumed the bodies of the victims for autopsies. The trial began in June 1929, and the district court in Ponchevo, and the hearings took place on June 18th and 19th of that year. So Sophia and Shima defended themselves at the trial. They claimed that they did not know the magic water contained poison. They believed that it was just water and that the death came as a result of Anna's supernatural witchy powers. Which is a bunch of BS.
Yeah, that's a bit of a stretch.
It's just a bunch of BS. So
yeah.
Stana claimed that she only wanted the magic water to heal her husband for alcoholism and that she was not aware that it would kill him. And then I guess she did it again to her new husband.
I was like, somehow I feel like that's like not true, but whatever. I had no idea it would kill him. I thought it would cure his alcoholism. But then when he died, I was like, why not do it again?
Why not?
Like that's like not true.
Yeah, I just thought I would test it on the richer one.
And I mean, like, did it cure him of his alcoholism? I mean,
Well, yeah,
I guess. Yeah, he can't drink anymore. I guess it fixed the problem.
It worked! Oh my god, it worked!
Oh my god, it's a miracle! She's a witch!
Oh, so stupid. So during the trial, Anna consistently denied charges, claiming that she never sold any magic water and that the whole case against her was fabricated by Yabina, who wanted to blame Anna for her own crimes. Olga defended herself, claiming that she was still a child at the time of the murder and that she was not aware that the water would kill her grandfather, which I feel like is valid, but
that makes sense.
Yeah, but Sophia testified that Olga was well aware of the whole plot. But, like, again, she's a child. So, like, can she really even consent?
Children aren't even real people. Like,
no. Barely.
Like, no. They literally don't know what's going on, ever. Like, that does not count.
No. So, Dr. Branko Vodeya, expert witness, testified that traces of arsenic were indeed found in the bodies of the victims. The trial continued on July 1st when results were available from chemical testing of samples found in Anna's house. The prosecutor sought the death penalty for all defendants except for young Olga, who, again, was a minor at the time of the murder, and he sought a prison sentence for her. So, the verdict was delivered on July 6, 1929, and Anna was sentenced to 15 years for the role of accomplice in both murders. Stana and Sophia were sentenced to life in prison as the main proprietors, and Shima was sentenced to 15 years. Yubina was sentenced to 8 years, and Olga and Danica were acquitted. Both the prosecutor and the defendants appealed the verdict in November 1929. The prosecutor demanded capital punishment for all defendants. After some cross-examination, Shima and Sophia admitted that they knew about the poison from the start. 'Cause duh, you know.
Yeah.
But all other defendants stood by their previous statements otherwise. The verdict was delivered on November 30th, 1929, and Anna was resentenced to 15 years in prison with hard labor this time, as a 90-year-old, mind you.
Yeah, that doesn't feel fair or just, or the crime suiting the punishment, or the... What am I trying to say? You know what I mean.
Yeah. Stana and Safija were resentenced to life in prison. Shima was sentenced, his sentence was increased from 15 years to life. And Yubina's sentence was increased from 8 years to 10 years. Olga and Danica were still acquitted. And then Anna decided to appeal the prosecutor's appeal. However, the court ultimately upheld her sentence. So it's alleged that Anna's magic water killed between 50 to 150 people, but that number has never actually been confirmed. So while her actions were undeniably those of a serial killer, her motives were far from typical. She didn't kill out of personal malice or desire for bloodshed. Instead, she acted as a mercenary of sorts, fulfilling the desperate pleas of women with no other means of escape. And her case highlights the plight of women in a patriarchal society where arranged marriages and domestic abuse were often inescapable. Anna provided a grim solution to an equally grim problem, and in the end, Anna, or Baba Anujka, remains a paradoxical figure, a grandmotherly serial killer whose potions offered both liberation and death. She was both a savior and a monster, a healer and an assassin, and she left a legacy as murky and complex as the concoctions she brewed. She spent her sentence in the women's prison Poze She was visited there in May 1934 by a group of law students and journalists, and she was held in the prison's hospital at the time. Because I feel like hard labor for a 90-year-old woman was never going to go well.
No, but that's what I mean. Like, if you're serving a sentence for something and you're given a, like, punishment, it should be something that makes sense for the person. Like, sentencing a 30-year-old to hard labor versus a 90-year-old are two, like, super different things.
I just feel like if you sentence a 90-year-old person to hard labor, you're just gonna kill them.
Literally, it's like you basically sentence that person to death. Like, why would you not just, like, do that then instead of being like, oh, here's the long game. Work yourself to death instead. Like, it's very weird for me. But I do love the description of her being a mercenary, because that is kind of what she is, right? Like, it's what I was saying earlier with her, like, making a business out of this, because I feel like we're so used to stories of serial killers where it's somebody who has, like, the itch under their skin and they have to go kill people and this is kind of like their thing. She literally did not seem to care about the fact that somebody was dying. Like, not to say, you know, you can't assume anything, but it was just business. It was literally her being like, oh, okay, you have a shitty husband and we live in a time period where divorce is not really a thing, and what is better, that he dies or you keep living like this?
To me, it's giving, like, the same vibe as, like, the doctors in, like, the 60s and stuff who performed those, like, you know, underground abortions. You know? Like,
but that's what I mean. It's like, you can't really, that's why I was saying, like, I get that it's bad, and there were probably people who ended up dying where the women maybe were just tired of them or something, you know, like, it's so hard to say, but at the same time, it's kind of like, well,
yeah,
I get why it was happening.
It seems like the two murders that she, like, actually got caught for or whatever were kind of like the bad ones of where, like, the husbands or whatever were killed not necessarily because they were doing anything specifically wrong. I don't know about the Nicola, who was, like, the abusive alcoholic, but Stanya's husband and then her second husband, who was richer, that feels like maybe one of those ones where she was taking advantage.
But then too, like, what if she came up with a story and she was like, oh, you know, like, he does these things to me and this is, like, the solution that was offered without really knowing the truth.
Yeah, for sure. And I totally could see that. We'll never know, obviously, what she told Anna and why Anna sold her the water. But, you know, maybe her intent with getting the water wasn't the best or the most honest.
Yeah. And I don't know, I still have a hard time seeing her as the bad guy. Like, is she a serial killer? But
Technically.
yes. Technically, yes. But here's the thing. But I wouldn't say that she's necessarily, like, a bad guy.
Well, I think that's why she's such, like, kind of like a controversial figure, too. It's like, yes, she resulted in the death. I mean, she resulted in the deaths of these people, but, like, she wasn't the one pulling the gun, you know? Like, she was just providing a means to an end.
But that's what I mean. Like, if somebody goes to a store and buys a gun from the guy who sells the guns and then uses that gun to kill somebody, do you put the person who sold them the gun in jail? No.
Exactly. And I mean, I know it's not exactly the same, but it is a similar concept, you know?
Well, I'm saying that looking at it from the perspective of she's running a business, because that's kind of what it sounds like to me. But yeah, there's definitely obviously additional layers because it was a little bit more insidious than that. But
yeah, I mean, like, the guy who sells you the gun doesn't necessarily know you're going out to murder someone. Whereas I feel like when she sells them the magic water, she knows that is intended for murder. So
yeah,
there is
the only
more
way it would be similar is if you literally came into the gun store, said, "I need a gun to kill somebody," and then he sells you a gun.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. It's different levels of complicity.
Complicit.
Yeah, that's the word I'm thinking for.
Yeah. So in 1936, after serving 8 years of her sentence, she was released on compassionate grounds due to old age. When visited by those journalists after her release, she maintained her innocence and denied participating in the poisonings. She died 2 years later in her house in Vladimirovich on September 1st, 1938, at the ripe old age of 100.
Woof. Well, she lived a long time.
She did. That's a fucking long time.
And you know what? She was a smart cookie. I'll give her that much.
She was. But yeah, I don't know. I feel conflicted about this one because on one hand, I'm like, a lot of those people would have been killed by their abusive husband if they hadn't taken action, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's right. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm
and then
conflicted.
also, too, like I said, you don't really know how many people were taking advantage of this, say, because they'd met somebody else that they would rather be married to or whatever, what have you. And
like
you'll never
Stanya.
know.
Yeah, she wanted the richer guy.
Yeah, she married a guy, met his cousin, and she's like, oh my god, he has so much more money. And now here we are.
I think it was actually her husband's uncle.
Well, I mean, he's older than her husband. I would hope he has more money than him, but whatever.
But yeah, that's it for today. That's my tale for you.
Well, thanks for sharing. If you liked today's episode, make sure to leave us a review on wherever you're listening to our podcast. 5 stars is always appreciated, but we do understand otherwise. We also have our website, which is www.wheelofcrime.com if you want to check us out on there. We have our Patreon, which is wheelofcrime at Patreon. We have our email, which is wheelofcrime@gmail.com. And we also have our social media, which is on Facebook, Instagram, X, and TikTok. And if you want to check us out on there, that is Wheel of Crime again, or Wheel of Crime Podcast. And lastly, we do still have our forum open for listener stories. This is a 24/7 thing now. So if there is an episode you're listening to where you're like, how diggity dog, I have a Baba who likes to make water, then you can write in and tell us all about it.
Yeah, tell us about your serial killer grannies.
Yeah, because we love them. I mean, maybe, or maybe not. That, you know, I take that back. We don't know. But yeah, if you have, but like I said, or any of our episodes, if you listen and find yourself itching to tell a story, feel free to write in, because we do our listener episodes fairly regularly now throughout the year for special occasions and whatnot, and you could get a feature.
Yes, and that's it. That's all. We'll see you next week for another new episode. Okay, bye.
Bye.